Minute of every day I've been working on this, meeting with whether it be the President Biden, whether it be Majority Leader Schumer and his staff, whether it would be with Nancy Pelosi, and I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't. I've tried everything humanly possible. I can't get there.
Since we had our last news conference, the CBO has finally added its voice to what I consider to be the only chart that really matters. Last week we talked about the fact that Penn Wharton and the CRFB had both scored the bill without the gimmicks, showing its true cost to be $4.6 to $4.8 trillion. CBO has now joined in and said, no, that's actually $4.9 trillion. So we finally have the scorekeeper for Congress weighing in on what the true cost of this bill is. That should be game over. But instead, we continue to see the effort underway to adjust language in the Byrd process and to make other changes, and we continue to hear the claim that the bill doesn't cost any money, that its cost is zero. The real cost, according to CBO now, is an additional $3 trillion. We've all been voting in a series of votes. The one that we're waiting to have come up next, that some of us may have to leave to go vote on, raises, or is the cloture vote on raising the debt ceiling by $2.5 trillion. And if this bill is passed, we'll need another debt ceiling increase for $3 trillion. Inflation is now at 6.8%. That's Friday's numbers, reaching a 40-year high. The average change in prices paid by consumers for goods has gone up by 6.8%. Gasoline prices up 60% over last year. Meat prices, another large contributor, bacon up 21%. The producer price index is up 9.6% today, the fastest pace on record. These are measures of average prices that producers receive for their output. We have raging inflation, we have raging debt, and we have raging spending, and if this bill passes, raging tax increases that are going to harm the economy and further drive the inflation problems we face today. There was this proposal to have the IRS get into the bank accounts of everybody who had over $600 in income or $600 in spending. We've had the debates back and forth over whether they could change that number or whatever. The Democrats claimed that they took that out, but what did they put in? They put in $80 billion for the IRS to conduct new audits and other activities. And what we have found from the Joint Tax Committee is that the vast majority of those dollars will come from the middle class, the very group that the President and the Democrats say will not be targeted. The administration claims $400 billion for this $80 billion spending, but the Congressional Budget Office says it's an $80 billion cost. The President continues to pledge not to make those making less than $400,000 pay more than a penny. But the joint tax report shows that of this tax gap that the IRS dollars are going to collect, 78 to 90% of that tax gap falls on incomes below $200,000. And when you push all the way up to the $400,000 level that the President's talking about, only somewhere between 6 to 9%, 4 to 9% of it is for people above that category. The IRS cannot generate the money that the Democrats are claiming they need for this bill unless it focuses the target right on the middle class. And that's what the data shows. That's what they don't want to say. This supersized IRS will create an army of auditors to come out and go after the tax gap, which lies primarily in the income categories under $400,000. And by the way, one last thing, there's $105 million in this bill for the IRS to create a new army of regulators so that they can write all the regulations that they need in order to get into the bank accounts of people that we won't let them get into. This bill needs to be stopped, and the gimmicks need to be exposed.